Hey everyone, Combo here, back with another Empires and Puzzles video, and today I am going to talk about who I believe to be the top 10 epic fire heroes in the game right now. Over the last several months, I've done top 10 lists for all elements of the legendary categories, and I've also done the dark, holy, ice, and nature of the epic heroes. So this is going to be the last of this series for epic heroes. I will likely be doing rare heroes as well, so definitely be on the lookout for those videos. I will also pin a comment with links to each of the other 4 top 10 epic hero lists that I did. So if you haven't checked out those videos, definitely do so. When I talk about each hero, I will also talk about where they could be most useful. So talking about whether they'd be good for raid tournaments or wars if you're maybe a newer player, for titans or mythic titans or challenge events. And some of these heroes that we're going to talk about are definitely going to be very good for challenge events. It is very common to use fire heroes in epic level challenge events. So the Alliance Quest and other challenge events where you're trying to get higher scores. And before we get started, if you do enjoy this video or find it helpful, hit that like button, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and turn that notification bell on so you can be alerted of when I drop new content. And if you are interested in supporting the channel, hit the join button next to where it says subscribed, and you can get some additional information on that. Without further ado, let's get into our top 10. And starting out at number 10, I have Nova, who is one of 2 epic fire healers in the game. She is part of the super elemental family. Her mana speed is average. Her class is Druid, and her ether power is defense up. For her family bonus, all elemental heroes get this. There will be fire shields that change to power gems each turn. The amount of gems that change is the same as fire heroes in the team. 5 power gems per element can be on the board at the same time. Power gems deal 20 damage to a random enemy each turn until matched. When those are matched, they deal 10 damage to all enemies. For their passive, they have the Troop Mastery passive. It's going to be different if they are attacking or on defense. When they are attacking, they will get plus 100% extra damage against the weaker element for those troops that deal the damage. So not the actual hero, but the troops that would deal the damage. And then if they are on defense, this hero receives 10% less elemental damage from troops of the stronger element. And for their special skill, the Healing Fire Spirits, she's going to recover 25% health for all allies, recovers additional 2% health per each fire shield on the board, up to 45% health in total. She is then going to cleanse status ailments from all allies. So there are only 2 epic fire healers in the game. We have Nova and Boldtusk, who of course we will get to eventually. He is definitely better than Nova, but Nova definitely has some value because of the fact that she is a cleanser. So depending on the type of heroes that you're going up against in raid tournaments or in wars, Nova could definitely be very useful for you because of that cleansing. And she's got that strong heal. She's got the super elemental family bonus with the power gems. She's Druid class, which is pretty good for a healer, so she'll get those extra thorn minions. So if you don't have Boldtusk and you were able to pull Nova, she definitely could be worth leveling up for you. Moving on to number 9, I've got Aodhan. Aodhan is part of the Slayers family. His mana speed is Slayer. They have their own special mana speed. It's a little bit slower than the slow mana speed, so keep that in mind. His class is Wizard, and his ether power is Fiend Resist. For the Slayers family bonus, depending if you have 1, 2, or 3 heroes, he will have a 50, 75, or 100% chance to receive the following stacks at the end of each turn. So they have a max stack of 10. The first one is Caster recovers 15 health per turn, and the second one is Caster gets plus 6% mana generation. So if you happen to have other Slayers on your roster and want to use them together, then that could definitely be useful for the mana generation and the extra health that they're going to get each turn. And then for his passive, resist damage from status effects, this character has innate resistance against incoming damage from status effects. And for his special, the Willy Wisps, he is first going to deal 210% damage to all enemies, summons a Wisp Fiend for all enemies. The Fiend damages the enemy with 35% attack every turn. The Wisp Fiend absorbs healing and disappears when it has absorbed health equal to 18% of its target's max health. And then he's going to have a stack. The first one is going to give 2 at a time at a max of 10. Caster gets plus 12% mana generation. And then the second one is also max 10. Caster recovers 15 health per turn. So pretty good hero. He's going to give damage to all enemies. Gonna summon one of those Wisp Fiends for all enemies. And then he's got that ability to get the stacks for the mana generation and the health also. As far as where he would be useful, definitely for raid tournaments, especially in a rush raid tournament situation. I wouldn't recommend him for Titans, obviously, and then for challenge events, depending on who else you have on your roster, he could be serviceable, but not ideal if you're trying to get higher scores. Moving on to number 8, we've got the first of our toons. We've got Scarlett here. She is, of course, part of the classic family. Her mana speed is fast. Her class is Rogue, and her Ether power is Attack Up. For the classic family bonus, and I'm going to list this each time, but I'm only going to go over it once. Depending if you have 2, 3, 4, or 5 heroes, they will get plus 1%, 3%, 5%, or 7% attack, defense, and healing. And then, of course, the toon passive, she will have a 75% extra chance to resist all status ailments, mana reductions, and buff dispels. And for her special skill, the Toon Barrage, she will deal 220% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies. The target and nearby enemies get minus 24% attack for 6 turns, and she's going to deal extra damage against nature. All of the toons are extremely strong, and you can see she can get up to over 1300 attack with this 1317 attack stat. I've mentioned it in videos before, but the images that the game gives us are as if you were to follow the talent path all the way to the left, so that attack stack probably could be even higher. When you're in raid tournaments, it is extremely common to see toons and now glass heroes because their stats are just so much more powerful than the other epic level heroes. I consider Scarlett to probably be the lowest out of the toons for fire heroes, so that's why I have her at number 8, but she is definitely still very good. As far as where you can use Scarlett, definitely in raid tournaments, obviously either on offense or defense, and you can use her for events as well because she hits 3 and she has that very, very high attack stat. Moving on to number 7, we have another toon. I've got toon Kelile. She is also, of course, part of the classic family. Her mana speed is fast. Her class is Rogue, and Ether power is also Attack Up, so she's actually got the same exact characteristics as Scarlett. Same mana speed, class, and Ether power. And for her special skill, she has the Dance of the Toons. She's going to deal 325% damage to the target. The target receives 216 burn damage over 3 turns, and deals extra damage against nature. Kelile and Scarlett are very similar. Obviously, Scarlett is an attack 3 hitter. Her main damage is a little bit lower, and she does minor damage to 2 other enemies, and then she's going to give them attack down. Personally, I like Kelile a little bit better with the higher snipe and then the burn damage on top of it. She, of course, also has the same toon passive and the same family bonus, though. As far as where you can use toon Kelile, raid tournaments is really going to be where she's going to shine because of the toon passive, both for offense and for defense, and then that snipe at the 325% is going to deal a lot of damage, plus the burn damage on top of it. I definitely like Kelile for raid tournaments. Moving on to number 6, we're not going to talk about toons for a moment. We've got Vonrein, part of the Gargoyles family. He has average mana speed, class is Monk, and his Ether power is Fiend Resist. Depending if you have 1, 2, or 3 Gargoyles on your team, he will be immune to poison damage if you only have 1, poison and burn damage if you have 2, and then poison, burn, and water damage if you have 3. And for his passive, the Gargoyle's Soft Skin, every time this Gargoyle casts a special skill, their Soft Skin activates. The next 4 times they receive damage, it is reduced by minus 90%, and they resist all status ailments and mana reduction. This effect cannot be dispelled. And for his special skill, Firing on All Cylinders, he's first going to deal 285% damage to the target and nearby enemies, summons a Fire Wisp Fiend to the target and nearby enemies. The Fire Wisp Fiend disappears after absorbing healing equal to 35% of its target's max health. The caster steals 30% of the generated mana from the target and nearby enemies for as long as the enemies have Fire Wisp Fiends. This cannot be cleansed, but gets removed if the caster is defeated. Vonrein is a great hero, has a pretty good attack damage at the 285% damage to 3 enemies, plus he's going to give the 3 enemies a Fire Wisp Fiend, and he's going to steal some mana, plus he gets the Soft Skin. definitely like Vonrein for raid tournaments. If you're a lower level player, then you can definitely use him in wars. And he would be pretty good for events as well because he does have the attack 3 at a pretty good damage percentage at 285. So Vonrein's definitely got quite a bit of use that you can use him for. Moving on to number 5, we're going to go back to Toons. We've got Toon Gormek, obviously part of the classic family. His mana speed is average, his class is Barbarian, and its ether power is Rage. Same family bonus with the classic family, and of course the Toon passive being able to get the extra chance to resist status ailments, mana reductions, and buff dispels. And for his special skill, the Toon Pulverizer, he is going to first deal 325% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies. The target and nearby enemies get minus 24% defense for 6 turns, and he's going to deal extra damage against nature. Gormek is a very useful hero. He also has another costume where he attacks everybody and removes minions from everybody. So depending on the depth of your roster and who you have on your squad, he could be good for you for wars for quite some time because of that removal of minions. And his Toon version hits extremely hard at that 325% if you're using him in raid tournaments against other epic level heroes. Definitely really like Gormek. As far as where you can use Toon Gormek, definitely in raid tournaments. And obviously you can also use him in challenge events and alliance quests because of the fact that he's an attack 3 hitter and has a pretty decent attack stat. But he's definitely got a lot of uses, and that is why we have him at number 5. Moving on to number 4, I've got Sun Shangxiang. She is part of the War of Three Kingdoms family. Her mana speed is average, her class is fighter, and her ether power is attack up. For her family bonus, depending if you have 1, 2, or 3 kingdom family members, she will get a 2, 4, or 6% mana each time a minion is summoned for them, and she's going to get 3, 5, or 7% heal each time a minion is summoned for this hero. She's also going to give a morale boost. Heroes belonging to this family, as well as heroes fighting alongside with them, receive additional perks in the War of Three Kingdoms event, plus 10% attack, plus 3% defense, and plus 7% of health. So that is definitely very useful. And then for her special skill, Royal Blades, she's going to deal 280% damage to the target and minor damage to nearby enemies. The target and nearby enemies get minus 44% defense and a further minus 4% decrease every time they are hit during 3 turns. That defense down maxes out at minus 68% defense. So she is going to be very useful for raid tournaments and wars and stuff like that, but she's also going to be extremely useful for Titans and Mythic Titans. That's really, really where she's going to shine, especially if you're going up against Green Titans. Definitely a very good hero, and you can see that her attack stat gets up to 1234, and again, probably a little bit higher because there's probably going to be some attack nodes that get missed because of the fact that the game shows you their stats as if you were to follow the talent path all the way to the left. But definitely an extremely useful hero, very versatile. Like I said, can definitely be useful for raid tournaments and wars, but where she's going to shine is going to be for Titans and Mythic Titans. Moving on to number 3, we've got Glass Boldtusk. He is, of course, part of the classic family. Mana speed is average. Class is fighter, and his ether power is heal increase. For his special skill, the Glass Warcry, he is first going to recover 34% health for all allies. All allies get plus 45% attack for 4 turns, and all fire allies reflect status ailments and negative stacks for 2 turns. He does have the Glass passive, which gives a 60% extra chance to reflect status ailments back to the attacker. You could definitely use the Toon version as well, depending on who you're going up against if you're using him on offense. But Boldtusk is a monster, definitely the best red epic healer in the game, and possibly one of the best healers overall that are epic level, primarily because of that attack percentage increase for 4 turns. That is extremely useful when you are using him on offense. As far as where you can use Boldtusk, definitely in raid tournaments and wars. A lot of people who are of mid-level or even a little bit higher still use Boldtusk on their war teams. And if you take those defense and health nodes on his talent path, he will definitely have the ability to survive even against some pretty tough teams. Moving on to number 2, I've got Wilbur. Wilbur is part of the Lagoon family. His mana speed is average, his class is Monk, and his ether power is Regen. For his family bonus, depending if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 heroes, heroes, he will get plus 3%, 6%, 10%, 15%, or 20% attack. And then for his special skill, the Wonderful Feast, all allies share received damage with each other for 4 turns. All allies get plus 63% defense for 4 turns. All enemies share received damage with each other for 4 turns. And all enemies get minus 44% defense for 4 turns. Wilbur is an event monster, so using him for tower events, challenge events, alliance quests, all of those are extremely useful for Wilbur because of the shared damage that all enemies receive and the defense down for those enemies. I regularly finish in the top 1,000 for rare challenge events, top 500 in epic, and top 1,000 for legendary events. And using heroes like Wilbur and Costume Gunner and heroes like that are how you're able to get such high scores in those events because it makes it go that much faster for them. So typically you'd want to start off by throwing a mana pot on Wilbur right away and then being able to match some tiles to kill your enemies very quickly using items on the 2nd level and then trying to get your specials activated again for that 3rd level when you are going up against the bosses. I put out a challenge event video a couple months ago about my strategy overall for challenge events, and Wilbur is a key piece to that for the epic level, and honestly I use him for the legendary events as well. He also has a costume that gives plus 100% for normal attack, which is extremely useful for Titans as well, so definitely use that costume for Titans if you have it. But the reason I have him so high is because he is that important. If you are looking to get better in challenge events and alliance quests and tower events and things like that, using heroes that have the shared damage for enemies is extremely important, and Wilbur is a staple amongst epic level challenge event teams. All right, moving on to number 1, I've got Colen, and I've got the 2nd costume version of him. We'll take a look at his special and his stats in a moment. His toon version is also very good, but I like this costume version better. He's of course part of the classic family. His mana speed is slow, his class is ranger, and his ether power is counterattack. He has the same family bonus as all the other season 1 classic heroes. He does not have a passive though because of the 2nd costume that we're using here. And for his special skill, the Flame Storm deals 285% damage to the target and nearby enemies. The target and nearby enemies get minus 54% defense against fire for 6 turns, deals extra damage against nature. This version of Colen is a monster. This is actually my version of him. I couldn't find a double limit broken with masterclass emblems of him, so I'm showing you my version. I don't have masterclass emblems on him. So if you did add masterclass emblems on him, this attack stat would be about 150 higher. So you would be looking at a 1347 attack stat on an epic level hero. We just talked about Wilbur being a staple amongst challenge event, alliance quest, and tower event teams. Colen is also a staple amongst challenge event and alliance quest teams because of the elemental defense down, his high attack stat, and that 285% damage to 3 enemies. It is very often to see some people in the top 100 of challenge events having 2 or sometimes even 3 of this version of Colen on their team. He is that good. You would probably most likely see Wilbur, Buster, 2 Colens, and then some other 3rd fire hero. Again, sometimes a 3rd Colen, but usually another attack 3 hitter, or maybe Boldtusk for the heal and the attack up that he gives. So personally, I would use this version of Colen for challenge events. I would also use him against Titans if you don't have another fire elemental defense down hero. You can definitely use him on wars for attack. I would really only use him on raid tournament defenses with his toon costume though, and probably in a rush setting. But personally, I love this version of Colen. He is extremely important for me, for my challenge event teams. I actually have 2 of them. I have 1 double limit broken, 1 single limit broken. So I typically would use Boldtusk, Wilbur, Buster, and then 2 of these Colens on my challenge event teams in the epic level hero. So those are who I believe to be the top 10 fire epic heroes in the game right now. Let me know what you all think. Let me know who I rated too high, too low, who I snubbed off of this list. Now is the time to stand up for your heroes. And that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy it or found it helpful. And if you did, hit that like button, make sure you're sub to my channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.